Testing one, two, three. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our council meeting tonight. Thank you. We were downstairs doing a closed session, and we're going to be chatting about that in a minute's time. So I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. The lands we know today as the Township of Centre Wellington have been home to Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. We acknowledge that we are on the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. With increasing encroachment by non-Indigenous settlers in the Township of Centre Wellington, the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee could not continue their traditional lifestyle and settled in their villages along the Credit River and in the Grand River Valley. These Indigenous nations uphold their treaty rights within our jurisdiction. Today, the Township of Centre Wellington remains home to Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We are grateful to have the opportunity to share and respect Mother Earth and are committed to building constructive and cooperative relationships with Indigenous nations.
Thank you for that, Councillor McDonald. Item 3, addendums and corrections to the agenda. 3.1 items 9.1 and 9.2 under the delegations have been added to the agenda tonight. Item 4, disclosure of pecuniary interests. Is there any disclosure? I would like to declare a disclosure. It's concerning the following matter, which is Bissell Park multi-use surface report. The reason for my disclosure of pecuniary interest is we're Riverfest Elora, which a lot of you folks know that I'm involved with, is part of the stakeholder group, as mentioned in it'll be mentioned future verbal report, which includes Riverfest Elora. So at that point in time, I will, Deputy Mayor Councillor Evoy will take my place at that to introduce both their delegations and deal with that matter at that time. So a matter is arising from the closed session, which was downstairs. A consideration of reports, make an announcement, acquisition of 8055 Wellington Road 18 for future parks and recreation. And there'll be a media release on this. And it's a proposed resolution to be brought forward in open session that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington authorized staff to release details of acquisition of property 8055 Wellington Road 18 in the form of a media release. And I'm going to give you a little background on what that is exactly. Okay. Yes, I'd like to move that resolution. Yes. Councillor Adams first, seconder, Councillor Wilton, seconder. We'll put just said that have that out, and then we'll come back to a vote on that. Or I
think you should do it first,
yep,
and then provide details.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any further comments or questions as it relates to that media release? Okay. All those in favor? So moved. Okay. Now I will speak to what that is. All that is. Okay. So. We are very excited that the township has purchased approximately 90 acres of land adjacent to the Centre Wellington Community Sportsplex in Fergus. These lands were purchased for $4.8 million. The acquisition of the property at 8055 Wellington Road 18 is a significant and welcome addition to our community. This land will serve as future parkland and facilitate the expansion of the Sportsplex property, creating more space for recreational events. The strategic purchase will enhance our ability to offer diverse recreational opportunities and meet the growing needs of Centre Wellington residents. The timing of this purchase is ideal, aligning with the launch of the 2024 Parks and Recreational Master Plan project. This plan, now underway, will outline Centre Wellington's park and recreational needs for the next 30 years. We encourage the community to actively participate in this project over the next 18 months, as your input will be crucial in shaping the future of our recreational spaces and ensuring they meet the evolving needs of our residents. I want to thank our staff and council for seeing the need for expand our parkland need to be well used, integral recreational hub in our community. Event space, passive parkland space, sports fields, and courts will all be needed in our community as we grow. So a very exciting day for this community, very exciting day for our council and staff. And again, thanks for all that who participated. And I think that deserves a little bit of applause. I hope I hear from you all. Thank you. And immediate release will go out immediately, and I'll give you some more detail on that. Yes.
Through you, Mayor, if it's okay, I just want to add a little comment to that. I am really excited on the investment that we just announced today, and I really feel like it's an investment that will benefit all of our residents. I'm really proud of this council and for this bringing this investment forward. And I think this really goes to show this terms of council's desire to improve the activity, health, and wellness of Center Wellington, impacting, most importantly, our residents, and perhaps even an investment in the future in sports tourism. I think this 90 plus acres allows us to build a campus of parks and recreation for so many activities of all different abilities, and will be a real treasure for our community and an envy of others. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Any other comments from council as it relates to this? Okay, thank you. Presentation announcements. I have nothing really. Well, that was pretty much our big announcement there in terms of a Mayor's County Council report. Nothing to report from there. Anything from Councillors Committee update?
Just QMS, you'll see, councillors, you'll see further down the agenda, I believe it's the SCADA RFP that is necessary. If you have any questions, you can always ask Colin over there. That's about it.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councilmember Wilton.
Yep, just a quick update on the Fergus BIA. They continue to ramp up all their activities for their various festivals this year. And I know St. David Street's closed, but all stores are open downtown Fergus. So please continue to shop downtown Fergus. And they are also, they have struck a subcommittee to work on the parking issue in collaboration with the township. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wilton. Any other committee updates? Okay, seeing none. So we're going to move down now to delegations. We're going to move down to delegations. I'm going to ask Councillor Eboy if she wouldn't mind taking my spot here while I vacate. I will be back though. Thank you.
Big deal. All right. Hi, everybody. Nice to see such a full house and so many people interested and committed to the work of this council. So just to give you a quick update, we're going to have two delegates. The first one is John Scott, and a reminder for both John and Tom that you will be given 10 minutes to speak. John, come on up so we can get you started. And Tom, you'll follow the same rules thereafter. You'll speak for 10 minutes. We'll give you a warning. Our clerk will advise us when we're approaching our time. Following your sharing with us, the council will have a chance to ask only questions of clarification, and we'll have a discussion following the report later on. So at this time, we'll start the clock. Mr. John Scott, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Scott from Green Lanes. Most of you know me. I'm also on the Healthy Communities Advisory Committee. I went for a walk this morning with a former councillor, and he gave me some advice because I usually delegate alone because I don't like bugging people. And so I just want to acknowledge the support for such short notice, and it's very much appreciated. But just to remind you, it's related to our topic in the sense that these are various groups here, and they want to feel the equity of your decision making. I have delegated previously, and when I have, it's been on the equity of design. And last time you weighed the options and you decided that honoring the original group's decision about the Bissell rink was the most important thing. And in the letter I've written to councillors, I think I've made it pretty clear that that's not going to stand up, that argument, because we're just choosing different things to honor, because not all things were honored. So if you have those sort of, I just want you to challenge those thoughts in your head that you might still have that as your reason to say, oh, let's keep going ahead with this project. I want to talk about decision making a little bit and emotions, because emotions play a big part in decision making. You might have an emotion because you were your kids played hockey when they were young, or you coached figure skating, or you had the actual vision of the thing. It would be really hard to let go of a vision. It's a very strong emotional connection. Or you're connected to the people that have been working really hard on this Bissell Park project. They are fine community members. I get that. Those are all emotions. Or you might have emotions towards me, the messenger. You might not like the way I say things or how I dress. I don't know. But they do influence our decisions. I was listening to a podcast the other day called The Hidden Brain, and they were talking to an expert on decision making and what goes on in our brains when we make decisions. And he was saying we love to add things. And that makes us feel good. And he even made a little joke about government, that governments really love to add things and they like to cut ribbons, you know. But we're all guilty of it. Even last week in a discussion at a meeting where we were trying to solve something, I tried to add something and I got shut down in a very nice way. And I had to give my head a shake. Yeah, I'm guilty of that emotion too, because it feels good. You feel like you have to add. And you can sort of think, best way to think about it is think of your house. When you do an addition, you add it, you feel good about it. But it's the stopping. It's the not doing something. It's preventing something or subtracting something. Those decisions are hard. We don't like them. And maybe the good way to think about that is when you have to take car keys away from your, some of us had to live through. It's an awful decision, but we know it's the right one. So I'm really here today to help you make a crappy decision. And what I mean by that is you're going to feel, hopefully, a little bad about it, but it's the right decision. And that's what I'm hopefully going to lead to. So let's get to some of the numbers that will help you with this. So I did some research on staff reports. And for those in the audience who don't know staff reports are what municipality staff give to council to help them make good decisions on our behalf, the information that we need. And I thought other communities would be struggling with the same issue, and sure enough, they are, about whether to build outdoor refrigerated hockey rinks. Clarecton Hills staff report, $4 million to build an outdoor hockey rink. Stouffville staff report, 275-meter ice trail, $5.5 million. I really liked Halton Hills staff report because they broke some things down. $1.3 million for a low carbon refrigeration machine, though that's the thing that makes the ice. Energy use, they broke that down. So they're calculating 114 days of use. $45,000 a year on energy use. Now you got to remember, I'm on a working group, and we're given $40,000 to dish out to community groups that do great stuff, and some of them are here. And it's like, when I compare that number for the energy use and the $40,000 that we have to share amongst all the great groups in this community trying to do stuff, it just sort of blows my mind a little bit. And this is something I never thought about this. I never thought the money was an issue. I thought it was going to be taken care of. From Halton Hills, still operating costs. They said 50 to 100,000 or more, and I have found operating costs higher than 100,000. And for the actual cost of the thing, $3 to $5 million to build. That's a lot of money. And that's the information they were giving to their counselors to make the decision. And I know, like Councillor McDonald, you're working really hard to get this taxation down to 4%. Well, making this decision today to stop this process is helping your township do that for sure. And the other thing I found when I was researching all this, everyone that I looked at, they're all connected to large municipal infrastructure. For example, like so they can share a Zamboni, right? Like they're all connected to that. Even the Caledon one that I mentioned in your letter, the byproduct of refrigeration is heat. So they've used the heat to heat the pool. So it's always connected. So there might be some out there, I don't know, but I didn't see them. So we might be a bit of an outlier having a facility just all on its own that way. But so those are big numbers. And the people I know behind me, they want to feel the equity of your decision when it comes to recreation and health and happiness. But let's talk about the environment. So a 200-meter square rink in Central America, 20,000 liters of water. Now, once again, I'm on an advisory group. We been talked about our groundwater and all that information. We need our different silos in our government talking to each other. 16,800 kilowatts of energy, 5 and 52 tons of CO2 each month. Now, granted, I have no idea what energy grid they're getting that from. It could be from a coal-fired plant. I don't know. But the bottom line is, if you're using electricity in Ontario, you are producing carbon. That is for sure. Well, let's keep with the energy bit. We all know that we're electrifying our society, cars, our heating. We know that. We also know from the papers the question is, can our grid handle that? And yet we're thinking of adding something before we get to this crunch point of energy use. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not the right time. And I've been trying to say Bissell Park is not the right place. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of different groups back here. Like, there is basketball support here for sure. And they just want to feel the equity of the decision making. We have the number one, the largest 3-on-3 basketball tournament in Canada, here in Center Wellington. And then they're just not feeling some of the support that's needed. So I hope you make the equitable decision. I hope you make the environmental decision. And I hope you really make the taxation decision, because I really think we have enough money from the McDonald Fund to build a sports pad and not charge us $1 to our taxpayers. And if in the future, when our population's larger, because all these other places I mentioned have large populations, when it's larger and we need an outdoor rink, then that's what we decide through our processes, fine. But I would like you to reconsider going down this route. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
We understand and appreciate that they are here to support you, so that's fine. Looking for any clarification, Council? Go ahead, Councillor McDonald.
To you, Deputy Mayor Eboy, Luscarton Eboy, sorry. I see everyone that's come today. I appreciate you coming. Are there other groups here? Who's here? Like, figure skating here is...
No, not figure skating. And to
is
be
soccer
honest,
here? Is okay.
There's rugby and there's people here.
Okay.
Right. Like it's the head of their group. But you got to remember, I was going to come with no one because I always think logic is enough. Well, but I was given advice Colin, when did I say hi to you this morning with Ian? Oh, sorry. But So he gave me that advice, so I just threw it out there.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a planned activity. I wasn't trying to negotiate, like try to get everybody. And I didn't even, it just makes me feel uncomfortable, to be honest, because I just like
to have support.
It is, but I know I have support in this community. I know I'm loved and I know my family's loved, but I just like logic.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other questions for clarification only?
And I don't mind hard questions because it gets at truth, but that's
You're
how
not
I feel.
wrong. That's absolutely correct. Seeing none. All right. On behalf of council and myself and staff, thank you so much for delegating. We always appreciate seeing you here. And it is indeed a pleasure to see each of you joining and supporting your own neighbor. Thank you, John. Next up, we'd like to invite Tom Keating. Tom, we will invite you to share the same rules. We'll give you 10 minutes. And at the end of that 9 minutes, I'll give you a warning. And then we'll wait for those who are leaving to leave. Wow, none of you are staying for John. Or Tom, sorry. Yeah. And by the way, it's lovely to see children here in council chambers. We'll give it a minute there, Tom. I don't want them to have the...
Oh, we're going to go 100 to 0.
I know, it's funny. I would have thought you would have had the same.
Was here because I think Tom Keating's my name, and I'm here representing Laura Rocker Sports Association and the Laura Lions Club. And I guess I'll take the blame for starting this project quite a number of years ago with those two associations and the opportunity for the McDonald Fund to take advantage of that opportunity, which we did. It's always been a multi-use surface. There's this conception that it's an ice rink and solely an ice rink, and we're early on in the process, and whether it becomes refrigerated or not, I don't even think we can stand here today and commit to anybody that's going to be refrigerated. But if it was refrigerated, we're looking at potentially mid-December to middle of March, maybe the middle of April if we have a good winter. So there's a lot of opportunity. Multi-use pad to be used for more than just a stick and a puck, or just skates, or just boots and a stick. So the reason that I came, I wasn't sure. I just was coming to, I'm on the committee, and I wanted to just acknowledge the fact that the committee's represented here. I know staff's got a report that they're going to make, and I thought it'd be good that the committee's here. Giving support to how the process has gone so far, and being involved in this process for the length of time that I have. My biggest, not concern, but unknown part of this whole project is who could lead this as a consultant. Is this an infrastructure project? Are we looking for a Triton Engineering, like an engineering firm, to lead this? And I'm thinking, well, it's not. It's more, but it's not a building either. It's this pad. It's this unique project, and and that's where I kind of got cold feet, because I don't build ice rinks for a living, but we did consult with a company that does build ice rinks for a living. And so we thought, well, do we just work with them directly? Well, they're not the infrastructure guys. They're the guys that just build the pad. We've got to figure out how do you build a flat surface on a hill. And so anyways, we had a meeting as a committee, and we were told that only one company had put an RFP together, so the RFP got extended. The same company came back to the non-mandatory meeting the second time. So they showed good interest. And when you look at their website and the little bit of research I've did, they've got experience in this sort of work, which was key, because that's where I kind of kept going down a rabbit hole and not finding the right company to get us to the point where we could say, here's, and we're not at the point where we're here saying, can we start, 2025? We're here looking for the opportunity to present some options back to council and say, this is the options that have come forward, some costing numbers pegged to those options. And now, is this a project we want to consider, or is this something that we can't afford? And then we can start talking about, is it refrigerated or not? Our goal as a sports association and the Lions Club was, we had never committed to refrigeration, but we thought we've got to make sure we're ready for refrigerant. Once you pour that concrete, you don't want to jackhammer it out and then turn around and add pipes. But then we've had the couple winters we've had, it's come more to the forefront. We're just not getting the length of time to build the ice. And talking to this one company that does build outdoor rinks, I've learned a lot in the last 6-7 years, but you actually build the surface differently if you're going to do it for a refrigerated surface or a natural surface. So we were trying to come up with this system that would maybe work, but it wouldn't work great for either one. So we're here just looking to get some proposals together, get some numbers to them. Is it something we can afford? And what route are we going to go? Are we going to go refrigerated, non-refrigerated, or hybrid? But again, we're not here to exclude any user group. We've always hoped that the surface would be structured so that user groups couldn't just go online and book it. This is for, this is for kids of all ages, of everybody, and unfortunately, if we were to just zone in on this sport called hockey, we're seeing numbers dwindle across the country, and we wonder, why is that? And there's having played it and not realized it when you played it, but then when you raise kids and you take them through this whole situation, there's a lot of pressure. Parents create a lot of pressure, and that makes it expensive for parents, and it makes it not enjoyable sometimes for kids. So having this ice surface to do like I did growing up, go down there with a pair of skates and a puck and hope that or a stick, and hope that you meet up with somebody and you end up playing with and meeting other kids in the community, and not having to spend a lot of money to do it has always been our purpose. But pickleball was something that 7 years ago, I don't think we really even thought about that sport. And I think we could get a lot of support if we needed to fill the audience. They might have gray hair like mine, but there's other user groups, and by no means are we excluding basketball. I just haven't figured that one out yet. It's always been our intention to have nets there and see that sport used. But again, it would be difficult maybe to play basketball in January. So let's come up with something else to do in those cold months. But let's keep everybody in the know and able to use this all year round. So it is a unique spot. It's been an ice rink for a lot of years. It's been a sports pad, a multi-use pad for a lot of years. It would be a shame to bulldoze it and just make it grass. It's right downtown. There's a lot of people that have seen it and used it. So at this point, we're not asking for taxpayers' money. We're just taking some funds from the McDonald Fund, which we have did a little bit of fundraising and have added to over the years. But right now, we're not asking to put the shovel in the ground. We just want to get to something where we can come back and show you something that might resemble the finished product and find out if it's feasible or not. I think.
Thank you so much. First question for clarification, Councillor Wilton, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ewoy. Thank you, Tom. I just had a question, because the one path looks like it will be expensive to go down the refrigerated path. When I read the original application, which was attached to a report last year sometime, it looks, and hearing you speak, it sounds like you really wanted a place where everybody, like little kids, elderly people, could really hang out and have fun. I was down in Bissell Park on Saturday, and it is quite sad looking. The state of the or I think it's asphalt, whatever, and the boards, it looks not inviting and not welcoming. So as a kind of the founding group, for lack of a better word, would your group be open to kind of more creative ideas that would take us down a slightly cheaper path for the time being, just to see something get switched over and be a more inviting space for everybody sooner than later?
Yes. We've, as part of the RFP, I think we've asked for 4 proposals. And to be honest, we want to even look at the option of structure, even if we have structure in place for a future roof. So we've got 4 proposals, and that, for the reason for 4 is we don't want to just ask for Taj Mahal and not be able to do it and see it stay the way it is for another 20 years. The path idea is literally just building a surface and then having boards brought in and creating a loop around the outside. We're not looking to create a path through Bissell Park like the boardwalk that's there. So that could be something that turns out to not be feasible in this process. And, we're all open. And I guess the user group that's commenting on this is just not made up of the Sports Association and the Lions Club. There's 2 other members from the community that are involved. So, we'd like to see this go forward. We're willing to stay involved and make it happen. And like I said, what we're actually working towards isn't what we thought of 7 or 8 years ago when we first started this process. We've evolved a bit, but we're willing to go back. We want to see something happen there. Yeah, and to your point, it's at the point where it's not even safe. So, you have Riverfest down there, and you have to cover it up so that people really don't see what's going on. So, yeah. But
you, Deputy Mayor Muscartney-Boy. It is a site. I feel in a year it won't be safe, and we will be condemning it. So something has to be done. I feel like something has to be done. When I look at the preliminaries, it does look like it's open and inviting and possibly multi-use. And yeah, so can you just a little bit more?
It's always been our, if you look at our initial reports, I hope we made it clear back that length of time ago that this is a multi-use pad, big on non-structured if we can. Wanting to make this open to everybody. And that was the idea of having the skating loop around the perimeter, that, somebody shows up with a tot or just somebody learning to skate and there's a hockey game going on. They don't feel comfortable. They've got a perimeter. Somebody that's, an elderly person wants to just go down and skate a loop around the outside and get some exercise and enjoy the fresh air. We're just trying to accommodate 2 different user groups, if you want to call it, at the same time, and make it more inviting. And that's the reason for that loop in our initial proposal.
With the indulgence of my colleagues, I have a quick question. I didn't see, what is the commitment of Allura Rocks and Lions Club together? Is the number there for their top dollar? Note, because if I missed, I'm sorry. What's the number that you're prepared to support up to?
I don't know that we've ever committed to a number.
That would be.
And just to clarify, we're the Rockers Sports Association, so we have no affiliation with the Allura Rocks.
My apologies. I just double checked wrong. I'm sorry.
Years ago, when they were done playing Rocks, they thought, well, we got to still play hockey, so they call themselves the Rockers, but we're actually not affiliated at all. So yeah, we've been involved in this project, and then when it stalled through COVID, we haven't been adding to it. But we run a tournament in Allura every year, and we have over the years we've donated funds to this addition to the St. McDonald Fund, and one company that came to us years ago and wanted to write the check then and gave us $10,000, and it's in the bank account. So we haven't been actively going out. If we get to that point where we have something that we can show, this is the proposal, we were looking for community support. We don't want to turn this into that we have to take on the entire fundraising project, but there is people that are interested. Over the years, I've had a lot of people approach myself looking to, because it's had some media help, and I've basically said, well, let's get something where we can show you what we're doing and the numbers, and then we can talk. So we're even though we're not as involved as we once were, we're still want to see this project happen, and we're willing to stay involved.
Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Somebody call Mr. Waters in.
Thank you, Councillor Evoy, for taking over that portion of our meeting. And now we'll go into item 10, consent items. Consent items are considered routine in nature and voted on collectively. However, any member of council may request one or more items to be removed from council's agenda for separate discussion and or action. So I'll read the recommendation first. Recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington approves consent agenda items 7.1 through to 7.4. Do I have a mover? Sorry, is that? Yep. So, yeah, 7.10. Yeah. Yeah. So it's 7.1 to 7.10.
Should be 10.1.
10.1. Yeah. Because I was original on that. Okay. I'll read it again. How's that? Let me just make that correction here. 10.1. And what's
10.4?
Yep. Okay. So I'll read that again. Sorry. Recommendation: the Council of Township of Centre Wellington approves consent agenda item 10.1 through to 10.4. Okay. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wilton. Seconder on that, Councillor McDonald. Okay. Any comments, questions? Yes. Go ahead, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just a quick comment in terms of the schedule of work in progress. I see that our parking strategy report is coming back to us on September 19th. I'm assuming we had put all approving any recommendations and everything on hold. So that will be on there. And I know that we have taken over parking enforcement. I am just kind of curious whether we will be sharing with council some parking statistics since taking over, so we can kind of see what the enforcement looks like currently compared to other seasons. And I think at the last time, the CAO, I had mentioned to the CAO, it would be helpful if, when we have the parking statistics, if we were able to separate out the parking tickets from those downtown core areas that are in our study area to tickets being given kind of community wide. So I'm just curious. I know that there's still progress, but I'm just wondering, and I'm not asking for those now, but I'm just wondering if we will kind of have statistics up to that as we head into that September meeting.
Through you, I'll maybe respond to the second half first. The parking enforcement is related to the downtown core areas only. The balance of Centre Wellington is still done by the OPP. So any report that we have will be specific to that core area. Anything outside of the core is either safety related or accessible related, but we are not enforcing beyond the core area as a rule. As far as the reports go, again, we're only 3 weeks in. So we are still learning the system. We are still having training as far as the impending conviction reports and those sorts of things. So we do have training scheduled with Alpha to go over the reporting and what reports we will want to generate. It was not our intention to report in the same fashion as the county did to the Police Services Board to council. I think we were going to report revenue generated through the normal budgeting process with any other project. But if there are specific things you want to see from an enforcement point of view, we could certainly run a public report for council's information.
Any other comments, questions as it relate to the consent items, or are you on this particular item? Okay. We had a mover and a seconder on that. All those in favor? So moved. Okay. Now we're going to go down to item number 11, consideration of reports. And we're going to start with item 11.1, diverse and inclusive recognition program. And yes, and Pat's going to speak to us. Thank you, Pat.
Yes, I'm going to speak on behalf of Kristen, who had submitted this report but is unable to be here tonight. So happy to have this presentation that she has put together. This report seeks council's support and direction to develop a program aimed at recognizing diversity and promoting inclusion within the township. There's a working group under the DEI Advisory. This report has been taken to the DEI Advisory Committee, and their recommendation and their motion is included in the report. I'm not sure if I want. Oh, I got it. The monthly DEI Advisory Committee meetings started with 2 committee presentations and a staff presentation. Through these presentations, the committee heard stories of triumphs, challenges, and great work that is being done to encourage diversity, equity, and inclusion in our community. Staff are looking to support from council to create a diverse and inclusive pilot program that is put together mindfully and Thank you. You had it, methodically. Thank you. Staff would first determine the initiatives to start with by working with the groups we've heard from already and also from hearing from other groups in the future. There are many suitable initiatives, but it could start with an equity calendar, a look at the community flagpole policy, and perhaps creating a granting program for DEI-focused initiatives that are community-led. The next step will be to determine the resources, both financial and human, needed to support the program. Staff would bring this back to council during budget deliberations for 2025. So first step initiatives, second looking at what the resources are needed to bring that back to council. Then the final phase would be to plan and execute launching a communication of the initiative supported by council. Hopefully you can read that one. It is important to make sure that the program is done right. It is not ticking a box exercise. To accomplish this at every stage, there will need to be community engagement and input so that the program creation is informed by the actual needs and voices of the diverse communities within the township. Actual goals and metrics to determine a commitment rather than symbolism. Transparency and accountability with the intention that all interested parties are kept informed. Long-term planning and sustainability to consider how the initiatives can be integrated into existing municipal framework and policies to ensure their longevity beyond the initial implementation phase. Education and training to build awareness, empathy, and cultural competence among municipal staff and community members. This will demonstrate a commitment to fostering a culture of inclusion and equity beyond the surface level. That is the idea behind the report that is for you today. The importance is more on the process of doing the work, and the work will follow. In summary, staff are seeking council direction to start phase 1 of this project, understanding that council will be part of decision-making process to allocate required resources, and will share in phase 3, which is to execute and communicate the program. Thank you.
That report. Any comments, questions? Councillor Evoy.
Do you, sir? Thank you. I appreciate the fact that Kristen's team and that you're working, of course, with her team. On behalf of the EDI committee, myself and Councillor Craddock, I think I can say that we have made great headway. And to see this first report come through after being methodical and slow and careful in its production, although may have seemed frustrating in the early days, we came to appreciate the reasons behind this and look forward to being a part of all decisions, not unlike what's happening in Bissell Park today, that EDI can have an opportunity, or DEI can have an opportunity to have a voice at as many decisions. The only way we're going to affect change is to thread it into the narrative at every corner. So thank you and your team for your hard work, and we look forward to seeing what comes as a result.
Thank you, Councillor Evoy. Councillor Wilton.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mayor Waters. Thank you, Pat, for the presentation. And thank you to the committee for their work as well. I was just curious, might be a question more for Adam, but when we started this term of council, I was pretty sure there were line items for EDI work. And now we're talking in this report that would have to come in as new budget items. So I'm just curious if that, where those funds went, and if maybe I'm just imagining that they used to be there, and how much we might be thinking about in terms of adding to the 2025 budget. Thank you.
That's an excellent question. And there is funding in the capital line item of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So we see that we're not spending that money until we have a resolution from council to pull that into a project. So that is one source of funding for this type of work. And if we come back with the information that there's additional resources required, then that would also feed additional funding into that so that we can deliver the initiatives. That's the intent, but I'll let you speak to what's there now.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. And for the question, Councillor Wilton, through you, Mayor Waters, yes, Pat's absolutely right. We do have capital dollars established. Some of that was getting the committee off the ground, and so there has been some dollars spent, but we do still believe at the end of April have about $77,500 that will be dedicated towards projects forthcoming from that committee as council permits.
Councillor Evoy.
Thank you through you, sir. Actually, thank you, Pat. Looking to you, Adam. I know a lot of us have discussed a lot about what the actual dollar amount was for the moderators that did, or mediators, or both actually, that did facilitators, and that'll cut a big part of our budget. We won't need that much next. Well, we won't use that again, and then perhaps we can take a closer look at what that was. And I'd like to see a debrief on that cost and how it served us moving forward, just to justify and qualify it. It's rather large expense.
Any other comments, questions from council? Okay, thank you, Pat. We have a recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington to direct staff to collaborate with Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee on the development and implementation of a program aimed at recognizing diversity and promoting inclusion within the township, as outlined in report CS 2024-15, dated June 24th, 2024, and that council direct staff to return to council for the opportunity to review costs of the programs during the 2025 budget deliberations. Do I have a mover on that? Councillor Welton, seconder on that, Councillor Evoy. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move down to item 11.2, Aramosa Engineering Vendor of Record, SCADA service, and we have Colin right here. Not used to having you, Colin, right here, but you're a good wing person.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, it's very strange being on this side. Yeah, thank you, Mayor Waters and members of council. So the report before you this evening is regarding establishing Aramosa Engineering as a vendor of record for SCADA support services. So as council knows, SCADA is a supervisory control and data acquisition. It's a system that the township uses extensively in its water and wastewater systems. This is the basically the interface that our operators use to run the water and wastewater systems. So it electronically measures various control parameters, provides that data to the operators and supervisors, and the operators can make kind of real-time adjustments to processes, pumps, chemical dosages through the SCADA system. So it's definitely been part of our everyday operations since around 2000. And since 2000, Aramosa Engineering has provided support to the township. So we have a capital project that's in the works. It's upgrades to the St. Andrew Street sewage pumping station, just St. Andrew Street, just at Gart Shore. And so just updating the PLC, some old components, hardware and software that need to be upgraded. As well, Aramosa provides support through our operating budget too. They provide 24/7 support to our operators in case there's issues with programming or some bugs that need to be fixed in the system. So I would just note the total values in the report referenced for the operating side are the total amounts for those cost centers. The Aramosa component from last year was probably closer to about 15,000, not 140,000. So just to provide some appropriate context for those numbers. Jerry Atkinson is here as well, our manager of wastewater services. We'd be happy to receive any questions from council on this report.
Thank you, Colin. Any comments or questions for staff here as relates to this report? Okay. Thank you very much for that. We have a recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington establish Aramasa Engineering as a vendor of record for to support work related to the wastewater and water services supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA processes, as well as instrumentation and monitoring used throughout the operational processes. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Ybor, seconder to that, Councillor McDonald. Any further comments or questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Okay, we're going to move down to item 11.3, and I'm going to vacate again. Yeah, 5 minutes? Yeah, let's do that. So let's have a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we'll have an exciting part of the meeting. Thank you.
multi-use pad project, and it's to award consulting work. And I'm going to just give some backlay for the project, and then Adam's going to clean up and share his information. So it's been 10 months since staff have brought this project forward to council. So I'd like to start with a quick reminder on where things are at and where we're going. At the August 13th, 2023 Committee of the Whole, the recipients of the McDonald Grant, Tom was here today representing the Elora Lions and the Elora Rockers, to rehabilitate the pad, had requested that the township reconsider how the project would unfold and come to fruition. At the meeting, council provided direction, first of all, to terminate the previous agreements between the grant recipients and the township. Secondly, council to approve the allocation of the $413,000 plus change in the existing funds to become a township project. Those were already raised for the project. Council directed staff to issue an RFP to hire the consultant for the design work. And council established a Bissell Park multi-use pad project working group under the HCAC, Healthy Communities Advisory Committee, which will include members of the advisory committee, the Elora Rockers, and the Elora Lions Club. The intent to install a mechanically assisted refrigeration system for the Bissell Park multi-use pad has been in the capital budget forecast since 2014. It has been intended that the pad would be rehabilitated and mechanically assisted. With the McDonald project, it has always been intended that there would be a phase 2 project after they had built the pad for the township to connect the pad to mechanically assisted system. In the 2024 budget, the forecast shows a top up to this project of $700,000 in 2025. The goal here with this part of the project is to refine that number so council can consider this project during budget deliberations. This Bissell Park multi-use pad is a highly used drop-in recreation facility, a valuable municipal asset that is at end of life. Council's strategic plan supports the goal, you heard it already tonight, to improve the activity and health and wellness of the community. With the warmer winter months, ice making is unstable. So refrigerating that pad when it is being rehabilitated is a good strategy to maximize the opportunities for different types of drop-in activities at this highly used location. After receiving council direction in August of 2023, on November 1st, the Bissell Park Multi-Purpose Pad Working Group was created through motion of the Healthy Communities Advisory Committee. At that meeting, members of HCAC were provided a copy of the council report that contained over 50 pages of all the agreements and the status of the project, along with direction from council from the August 13th meeting. On December 6th, a member of that working group provided an update to HCAC. On March 6th, at the HCAC meeting, I provided a brief overview of the status of the RFP for the project. And then the RFP was posted on April 11th, closed on May 24th, and it was evaluated. And here we are today to seek council approval to award the consulting services. Staff, I just want to give you a bit of background on how we came up with the RFP as it sits today. Staff had been challenged on creating the RFP for this document for this project. This RFP was led by Infrastructure Services, and I thank them for bringing their expertise to this project with the support of staff from Parks and Recreation. The goal was to bring back to council results after consideration of different options for the rehabilitation of the multi-use pad, considerations of a roof or a skating loop, and how to incorporate accessibility, all while building adjacent to the river, adjacent to the GRC flood area, on a slope. All these created challenges. It was decided to release the RFP that would engage the consulting team, that would help identify a recommended build-out, budget, and design that accounted for the challenges of the site. Stop at that juncture, return to council to confirm the identified design and budget. The consulting for this phase would include engagement with the working group, HCAC, Riverfest, the Elora Farmers Market, all who currently use the park. This would come back to council for consideration for the next step. The award of this RFP will help the project proceed to that juncture, and staff will return to council with results for your consideration. In February, participated in an outdoor ice symposium hosted by the Ontario Recreation Facilities Association, which provided insight into best practices and for the construction and also operations of an outdoor ice pad. The plan is for an ice surface for the winter months, and for approximately 8 months of the year, this facility is a hardscape surface for activities such as basketball, pickleball, yoga, dog training, lacrosse, the list goes on of the number of things that happen on the dry pad. This time was well spent in considering challenges and opportunities for operating requirements for this type of facility. While staff currently operate indoor recreation ice facilities, this will be the township's first outdoor mechanically assisted ice surface. Council will receive information not only on the capital costs associated with this project, but also report on the anticipated operating expenses for Council's consideration. ATA Architects are the consultants recommended to provide the service, along with a significant list of their subconsultants to assist the township to bring back this report to Council. They have related experience, and from their submission, staff are confident they are clear in understanding of the project, the challenges, the requirement for engagement with Central Wellington officials, local community groups, and potential users. ATA also has the expertise to complete the technical analysis required, the studies of the site, identify site's capacity and restrictions. This leads to the design work and the budget analysis. It is challenging to have a consultant provide price for the work all the way to the next phase of the project without firming up all the information and identifying what the build-out would look like. And the site challenges are significant. So this is why staff are doing this in 2 phases. The site challenges is contributing factor why the group, which Tom spoke about, actually asked the township to take the lead on this project. I'm going to turn this over to Adam McNabb to take council through the procurement report, and then both of us are available for questions.
Thank you, Pat. And through you, Deputy Mayor Evoy and members of council. This report provides a recommendation and seeks council approval for award of request for proposal 0624 regarding Bissell Park, specifically consulting services related to the assessment of options and preparation of technical studies. Recommendation is that council award request for proposal 06-24 to ATA Architects, Inc. at a contract price of $89,670 excluding HST. The proposal was issued in accordance with the township's purchasing and procurement bylaw. There were 8 registered plan takers and 1 submission was received. The sole response was scored by the internal selection committee, and based on the results of that evaluation, it is the selection committee's recommendation to award this proposal to ATA Architects, Inc. Budget capacity does exist for this award, but is being brought forward for council endorsement as the delivery plan of the project has changed from what it was previously presented to council in August of 2023, as Pat had previously alluded to. And with that, Pat and I are happy to field any questions.
Thanks so much. Looking to council for any questions from either Pat on her overview, or Adam, or if we have any questions based on the earlier delegations we heard. Go ahead, Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I think I'll have a few, but just to start, just on your end piece, because that's what I think was most surprising to me when this report came, is what you were calling that change in delivery plan. And that's why we're seeing that brought back to us. So can we just kind of go over, because I'm seeing more money. So because I think the initial one had it was going to come back to us with construction costs and everything, design, like ready to build designs is kind of how I had read it. And then when I read the report for today, I understand we want to take a look at all of the options, but this is still just going to come back to us. And then there was a comment about there could be even further studies necessary. And then we would still need to go and do all the design plans, which is then going to add an additional amount that was not really planned for at the time of the last report. Is my understanding correct? Could you just help clarify for me?
Yes, Councillor Adams, thank you for the question. I'll try and answer all of that. So when the staff got together to try to put this RFP together, it was very challenging to ask a group to give us a price from concept all the way to construction documents when we had not really as a council and staff determined exactly what we were building. So with this, we kind of get into partway into schematic design. They're going to definitely have GRCA considerations. When we talk about the other consulting, geotechnical data, anything that needs to be site looked at. And I think that I know Colin can answer some of those questions on those specific look-ats to make sure that what we are going to put on that is what will work for the site, drainage, and all of that kind of stuff. So we're getting into very technical site specifics. So when we add on some extra costs, I think the budget shows $25,000 for that. We had hoped that the entire consulting from beginning to end would not eclipse $100,000. This has come in at more than that, but I believe that this work will set the table to start right away with construction drawings. So we will have that, and then at that point, we can consider options moving forward. Perhaps a design build might be a more economical way to move forward on this project if we have the right group responding to design build versus going to full design and then tendering to build. There could be positive outcomes if we have a partnership with a GC and an architect working or engineers working together to build and design this. It may actually end up costing us less in the end. So we feel that at the end of this consulting phase, we would be ready to pivot to either type option. Once we bring this all back to council, we'll have a good idea of what the building will cost us, the build out will cost, and then also with that, we'll have an idea of some of the hydro use and operating costs. We're also looking at, depending on the way it's built, how much volunteer work can be used versus staff work and things like that. So that's where we're going to get into some of that costing. So you'll have all of the information before we move forward to the next phase. I recognize, and that is why we wanted to come back, recognizing we had spent a great significant amount of the first $100,000 we had asked for. I think that's part of the reason. Yeah. So, okay. Did I answer all of your question? Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Wilson. Councilor Staff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eloy. Thank you for the updates on the report. I am concerned about the extra step in the process and how much money we're taking out of the Jack McDonald Fund for studies. I believe the intent of the Jack McDonald funding was for kids and families to enjoy their time pretty quickly with maybe lower scale grassroots type projects. I'm aware that this it has been going on for quite some time, and COVID put some interruption into that. So I understand kind of the bumps along the way, but I am just worried that the 4 scenarios that you've asked the architect to come back with are all committing to an expensive refrigerated model going forward. And I would have liked to see a little more variety. So I think the city of Oshawa, in their staff report that I looked up, they had different types of ice, synthetic ice, they had no ice, they had different kind of like natural ice versus refrigerated, so that you could actually see the difference when you start to look at how things could play out. We just had our meeting, the last meeting, where we talked about the budget and recognizing that it's going to be expensive to kind of all the other services the community needs. So I'm just concerned that instead of kind of looking at this and from okay, we have $420,000 of Jack McDonald funding. What can we do for $420,000? We're spending that money, a good chunk of it, on studies that will commit us to a very expensive path forward. So I am concerned about that. So I would be leaning towards not approving this study, but I'd have more detailed questions. But I don't know if any of you can comment on why we didn't look at more scenarios that would include a lower cost scenario.
So my understanding is we were taking direction from council from the last time we met to prepare an RFP for refrigerated ice surface. And that was the 4 options we came up with. I think the roof has been one that has come in and out in conversation because it plays a significant role in potentially saving long-term maintenance cost and operating cost and refrigeration cost. So that's why we want that option in there to consider yes or no. Our direction, I believe from the last meeting, was that council supported a refrigerated ice pad and multi-use surface at Bissell Park. As a multi-use surface, it is ice for 4 months and dry pad for 8 months, creating a facility that is able to be used for so many different types of activities. So that was what we understood as our direction. So that's why the report looks like it does, and that's why the RFP looks like it does. If I didn't answer that all, let me know.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I guess that's why I'm grateful it's come back this way, because it has kind of given us an opportunity for sober second thought. And in combination with the fact we're doing the Parks and Recreation Master Plan right now, which will hopefully be giving us guidance of where such a facility would be most useful to the majority of our community. And with the announcement was just made tonight of the purchase of the property, which is super exciting, but that's also going to require some infrastructure and some building up. So I'm just worried we're committing to this fairly expensive, because it's going to cost, I couldn't find anything less than $2 million for a refrigerated ice pad. Then you need a new Zamboni that would be connected just to that one site in Elora, where I think a lot of the cost savings can be connected if you have the Zamboni can go back and forth between multiple ice pads. So I'm just thinking this is a good opportunity for us to kind of pause and say, what are we committing ourselves to in light of all the other things we have going on in the community? So that would be my comment on that. Thank you.
We're following speakers list. So we've got just raise your hand and you're on the list. Go ahead.
I was just going to respond, and yes, we are taking a look at what equipment is required, what could be operated by volunteers versus staff. But the initial thought actually is we have a backup Olympia Zamboni, and that's where we would store it and where we would use it. And then goes down at the facility, it could be moved in to the facility, and we can jig things around until we can get that one repaired. So we're looking at all sorts of cost-saving measures to operate this efficiently, economically, and bring that all back to council for your consideration. I think our challenge is without this work, we're assuming a lot of things about what this will cost to build, what this will cost to operate. This is money being spent to try to achieve some of those answers for council. I can recognize where everybody would like to spend less, and it seems like a lot of money. However, it's a significant project, and before going forward, I think we need to give it a full analysis.
For you, Deputy Mayor Lascatney-Voigt. I don't want to get too much in the weeds of how we got to this point, because we did approve a motion to get to this point. With the costs, I guess we won't know unless we actually have this contractor to figure that out for us. So moving forward, I would like to really see it move forward, because then that's going to give me an informed decision of the long-term cost. I also don't want to undermine the people that have fundraised for this, and the McDonald funds are a separate item for the betterment of the community of Elora. It's my understanding is not grassroots. It's the betterment of the community of Elora. And I spoke with that working group before those funds were divvied up and given to different groups. So the people that have fundraised for this, who are they? We know that it's the Lions. We know that it's just from what Tom Keating mentioned. Have we had any other groups that we know of?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I think Tom was sharing that there have been interested parties in joining us on this venture. However, until they know what we're building, when we're building it, they have not. And how would that recognition be portrayed at the site? I think they're just waiting to kind of get that. There's an opportunity here for community partnership of small and large naming rights. There's opportunities, but until we know what we're going to build, we can't bring that all back to council for consideration to offset some of either the capital or operating expenses.
I appreciate that. That's what I was looking for. Moving forward, I guess it's just really the unknown. So unless we do this contractor, it's the unknown. I'm also looking for a cost if we don't move forward with something. It's like a cost of removing a bridge, the cost of removing this pad, because clearly it can't stay. It is potentially near condemnation. That's a hefty cost to have that excavated and removed. And what would be left in its place? Are we seeding it? What are we doing? So I think I need to know that too. But I would like to move ahead so I know what the costs are for the future. And I think we just don't actually know. I don't actually know.
Do you want to speak to that, Pat, before we go on the list?
I was just going to say that it's early stages of this study. If we award this contract and we work with that consultant, it's possible we can get a breakout of that cost. What does it just take to remove that facility that's currently there?
Councillor Adams, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I do want to know Tom Keating's commitment and the commitment of the Elora Rockers and the Elora Lions in here. They've been working with staff for many years and keeping pushing on this project. And it was clear to me when you read their first application at the McDonald Stewart grant application that the intent was to be multi-use. I think there actually was some like basketball in there. I think we did everybody recognized at the time. But the intention was multi-use, and that phase one was kind of different than where we are now. They talked about the Taj Mahal kind of now, and I kind of worried that we're headed towards the Taj Mahal. And in both delegations and in some of the comments, some of the keywords that kind of keep coming up was like the location, and maybe some concerns and difficulties with that being the location. And then the risk, because we do have a pad that I have heard end of life. But so my question is, for staff, is the location a concern for staff in terms of where it is situated in our downtown area, which is, can be very busy for residents to get to at certain times of the year? We building for, and with its placement by the river, all of those things. And is there other municipalities that had this kind of outdoor refrigerated style rink away from their municipal facilities? Like if you found examples of that. And then my second question would be just clarifying what we're talking about, the risk of the current state of the pad. I think way back when in my time at CSAC, I think staff had spoke a long time ago that there was significant risk in allowing that pad to remain as it is. And I just want to get some clarification on what the status of that is. And are we at a point or where we kind of see a barricade going up on that?
I'm going to ask Matt Tucker to come up and talk about the current state of the pad. I know that he would have more hands-on experience with that, and then we can come back to the other questions.
Good evening. The state of Bissell Park, like we've really duct taping and basically trying to keep that pad together. And the reason we want to keep it together, that's really it's a basketball area for really Center Wellington right now. Like that's the go-to. We don't really have we've got a little pad at the Elora Community Center with 2 nets, and we've got 2 nets at Bissell Park. And it's something we've brought contractors in just to put the structure, keep it in place. And knowing that it's the end of life and knowing this project could come to fruition, we don't want to really throw too much at it, knowing that we could be upgrading it, right? So, yes.
Can I go to Councillor Wilton, or do you want to speak?
I was going to answer a couple more questions.
Yep, go ahead, please. Yep,
Councillor Adams had. So is the location a concern for staff? I would say no. It provides a unique opportunity in our community to have an outdoor ice surface that is completely drop-in, that is for casual use. The 2 examples that ATA presented to us, Freelton is in a park, and it is a multi-use surface. And then the other one, sorry, I have that in my notes here. Oakville Wallace Park. So those are two that they've been working on that are not attached to giant community centers. I think when they are connected to community centers, there's more of a push to rent that space out and to make it another surface that is a rentable space. The intent of this project has always been drop-in recreational space, and it's our role to just make sure that it is safe and that whoever shows up gets to participate in whatever activity is going on or be the first to create the activity. So it's drop-in, casual, unstructured recreational play. So I'm not concerned about the location from an operational perspective. I think we just want to make sure that the site, the GRCA and everybody else is involved and has a chance to comment on what we're about to do to make sure that from a technical perspective, there are no concerns with the site.
Are your questions answered, Councillor Adam? Go ahead, Councillor Wilton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eboy. Yeah, just a question then about basketball. Maybe you want to stay, but if you just mentioned that basketball, that's really the main spot for basketball users in our community is Bissell Park is about it. So I'm just curious how we can speak to, or if you can speak to how basketball has been involved in the design and thinking of what would happen, because moving away from the original 420,000 in the McDonald Fund and with a little top up from the initial fundraising, we're going to be investing a lot more of township money into this facility if it moves forward. Users, basketball, pickleball, etc., being engaged. Thank you.
Sure. And I've met up with Celtics a couple different times down at Bissell, and that probably dates back prior COVID. And really when this project started, got wheels, there was different groups that were engaged to see, this is a multi-use pad that we want to just have busy all the time. No, they were engaged. Riverfest is another group that we've chatted with and say, okay, once we get a better idea of what's going on, they'll be at the table for sure. And having basketball, there was the Celtics, they had the acrylic basketball backboards. They fundraised for that. That was quite some, probably about 7 years ago. So yeah, we have definitely been engaged. Not so much lately, knowing we really don't know what's going on right now with this project. So once we get a better idea, they'll be at the table.
Next is, we'll have Pat respond.
I just want to add to that comment, and there's absolutely no reason why we can't have them as a group that we'll consult with at this stage of the project. So I will add them to the list of the ones that we have on our list, and we'll make sure that they're at the table.
Follow up, or can I take another question? Okay, we'll take another question. We'll come back. Go ahead, Councillor McDonald.
Deputy Mayor Scott Eboy. I would also like to see, knowing how much it's being used for basketball, are they willing to fundraise for this too? To put money into the pot too for future. And I feel like this contract that we need to approve will give us a better idea of actually what groups could fundraise and bring that forward. If there is such a passion and it's being used that much for basketball, yeah, I would like them consulted too. I can honestly say I've not heard personally from Celtics. I would love to hear their voice. And I would love for them to fundraise too, because clearly this is what it's been about. I put parks in, I fundraised hard, and we want to see that effort too. So I definitely like to see them at the table, if that's okay. Thanks.
Councillor Wilton, sorry.
Thank you. I just have a question in terms of the RFP process. So I think you said there was 8 bid takers, only 1 submission. And I'm wondering if you have any idea of why that is. Sometimes we hear that sometimes issuing RFPs later in the year, everybody kind of have their work plans and everything, and they're booked for this year. So I think you've told us that, getting the RFPs out early in there, sometimes you see great. And I understand we had our hands tied for other things and why this happened when it did. but just wondering if you had any more insight into the process there and timing.
Yeah, I don't think I could really comment articulately about it. It's really what's prevailing in the marketplace and where everyone's at. Anything that I would suggest at this point would probably just be speculation. So I can't say definitively why there was only one response. But I do know there were 8 takers and the one respondent, and they, based on the evaluation of the committee, they were confident that they were, up to the task. So that's why the award's before you.
I know that the infrastructure team, the engineers who are on this, also agreed this is a bit of a niche project. So it was difficult to find the right consultants. And then it's a matter of, okay, how many are local to do the work, local meaning within a certain range, and also not already busy. So we were fortunate to have this group come to the table, but it is a bit of a niche project.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Evoy. I'm just curious in turn, because at the March 6th, I think it was Healthy Communities Advisory Committee, there were a couple of questions about having a cheaper scenario, like a non-refrigerated ice surface and a more open kind of access type of ice surface. So I'm just curious why we didn't look like we really are getting 4 scenarios that are almost the same, one with a roof, one without a roof, one with a loop, one without a loop, without some of those other costing options. So I'm just curious if anyone can speak to why we didn't go for a broader range of options to look at, especially considering that if we are going to be using other township of money, it means another big project in Elora versus spreading it out throughout the communities, Fergus and Bellwood, for example.
So on the December 6th, HCAC meeting, we mentioned the project, and then I know that John Scott, as a member of HC, provided his views on the opportunities for different types of projects and no boards, and all of that information was shared then to that group. I just wanted to also, that was also shared to council. However, we were following the direction from council that we received to go forth with the options that we had looked at, which was the refrigerated ice plant. That's why it looks like it does. I think I've already answered why it looks like it does, but that was the direction that we have. If through this consultation, then there will be an opportunity for the Healthy Communities Advisory Committee and the working group and Celtics and Riverfest and everybody else to have their input to the design.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just trying to reflect back on all the discussions we've had, and even Mr. Keating spoke about like his initial phase one. We didn't even know, and I think he spoke again tonight about whether, even the future of the refrigeration is there. But I think to the intent of what the grant was for, it was really based around that phase one of we need a new pad there, pad with boards, multi-use, great community partners. It was, the intent was really good there. and it's kind of grown and it's kind of gotten a little bit complicated. Are we not at a point still with the Parks and Rec master plan coming up that this can still be looked at in phases? Like, we have the money there. Can we not do phase one and then maybe phase two, like build where it can be attached? Mr. Keating talked about, he's learned a lot through this, certain ways that the pipes have to be laid and all of that. Taking the feedback from the Parks Master Plan, determine the next phases, or community partners coming back with a roof, without a roof, phase 3. Does it have to be all at once, or can we not segment this project out to start just getting the pad there?
That's an excellent question, and the answer is yes. So it's our intent to understand the full build out for the space so we know where everything will go. And then, if you're right, phase 1 was the pad with the boards, with the refrigeration lines in the concrete. Then you could add the refrigeration or the roof in future phases. Council can make that decision once we know what everything costs. And then the build out on those phases will be determined also by the consulting project on, well, we can't get back in there to do that because we've got this accessibility path or whatever. So all of that on the table, absolutely, with this consultant to take a look at. And so phase one for this project has always been the pad and the loops. The second one was sitting out in 2024 for the refrigeration to be added. So when you think about when they got the grant in 2018, it was going to be done in 19 or 20, and then we would be waiting to add that refrigeration system. The roof has been a new conversation, so absolutely it can be looking at making sure that the foundations and all of that are in play. And how would we reuse the lights and all of that kind of stuff? We can absolutely look at phasing this project. It's an excellent question.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I can't get that right tonight. Deputy Mayor Eboy. So no, I was just curious then with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is launched, it's already kind of up and running, I understand. So I'm just curious, like spending a lot of money on that study, which is good. It's good, really important study for us to be doing. So I'm just curious though, if the Parks and Recreation Master Plan comes out saying facilities like this one should be located more centrally closer to Fergus or in Fergus or even on the east side. So Bellwood residents can also access it. Who knows with the Fergus South secondary plan, that's going to be a lot of people living up in that area eventually. And then I'm just worried we're hamstringing future councils and ourselves even with the rest of this term of council to an expensive project in Elora based on this historical thing. And I'm just curious why there isn't an opportunity to do something where we can replace that pad quickly with a really kind of modern multi-use facility. There's quite a few out there, I think, that can be used for ice, but natural ice in the winter. And then lots of multi-use sports the rest of the year. So I'm just struggling a bit that we don't have a cheaper option to look at that would get us moving faster towards fixing what's there in Bissell Park right now so people can enjoy it immediately, while also letting the Parks and Rec Master Plan kind of show us and guide us where a resource, an asset like this would be most beneficial to our whole community.
So I think if you look at the first option that we're looking at, which is the arena with just the pad, the refrigerated pad. That's phase one. You don't have to put the refrigeration plant there. You don't have to build the shed for that right away. That is a quick early fix at low cost. But I think while we have the consultants here taking a look at everything, we don't want to, as you said, tie our hands to the future. If the climate change is telling us that refrigerated pads are the only thing that are going to operate in the future, then we want to make sure we have those lines there, that we have an opportunity to refrigerate this location, another location, if that's what it takes. I think at one point we've had up to 11 natural ice rinks by our communities. And, you know, with the weather trends this last winter and some other examples, they just haven't been able to operate. And so I think that's the niche that is going to become the future. And these pads are there for 30 years. So let's make sure that we don't regret not putting what we need to put in there and know what the cost of all of the build out is, and then make decisions on what our next step is. I want to emphasize we're not building everything on that list. We're looking at what it costs to build everything on that list, coming back here, what's it going to take to operate, and all of those questions. That's really where we are today. We're not going forward without council's consideration, costs, intake of all this information and direction during budgets. We have to move now so that we will be ready by budget time to have some numbers for you.
Go ahead. That's fine, not to worry. Go ahead, Councillor McDonald. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I'm looking to my colleagues that sit on healthy growth, you know, and how this all came to now. Like, did you know that we were going to be doing this? Like, council already made a motion. So now I'm like, I haven't had any updates. It's just minutes of meetings, but sometimes there's like good conversation. So I don't, you know.
Would either or both like to respond to that, please?
Thank you. Through you to my colleague. Unfortunately, I was not at the March meeting. And I think I also go to the minutes to look for updates. And I think the minutes had only said that Pat had given an update to the committees. But so I didn't actually receive the information in terms of like the RFP that's information that Pat spoke with. And there hasn't, like, I feel like there hasn't really been a lot of updates recently from that point. I think it's been kind of more conversations with the established working group. So I don't feel that our colleagues here around the table have any more or less information than.
Both agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that in March, I brought the committee up to date, but once the RFP is posted until it closes, we really can't go out and have conversations about anything within that RFP. So that was sort of the silent stage, and now we're here to talk about it.
Adams.
Through you, Chair. I feel like we're all
some 89,000 that we're here to vote on.
Yes, yeah. But like, right, and I don't think anybody disagrees with like this phase one, right, of all of this from day one. I don't think there's been a lot of opposition there. Is this the only way through? Like, I'm like, is this the only path to figuring out what is needed? Like, if we didn't approve this RFP today and we said, we want staff, you have the budget, we want staff to just move ahead, implement stage one, just go and let's get it done. Do you have the information you need? And then could then a future RFP be put forth to look at the costings after we have the parks, and which can then we can take the information from our parks and rec master plan and then do an RFP for the additional options after phase one.
It was along the lines of what Councillor Adams was asking. The original RFP in August that we had approved was to do that first kind of costing of construction ready costs. So this is a change from what we had approved in August. So
that'd be great, please.
Yeah, so I think I've already spoken why we didn't take this all the way to construction costing with this RFP. I don't see another path forward, only because if we decide to, and this is where the committee that was trying to do this on behalf with the Jack R. McDonald money ran into challenges. Nobody knows where the refrigeration system needs to sit, how close it has to be to the pad, where do we have to put the maintenance building, what does that maintenance building have to house for equipment? If you go to stage 2 and 3 with a roof, what actually has to happen in stage 1, and where can that be? And we're still having to investigate, ripping up that pad and what has to happen with the GRCA flood area, and all of these investigations still need to happen. So unless you lay out everything and see where all can go in the future, it can be built out in future phases, then you really have not set your table for future opportunities. That's kind of what we're looking at now. And that's why we've asked for the 4 options. One of those options may come off the list because we just, like we said, the skating loop may not fit and it may not work. And I'll also ask Matt Tucker if he has anything to add to that. Or is that it?
And I move forward at this point. Okay, so I have a couple of things that I've gathered. I'm just going to confirm that we are here to vote on the RFP, on the 89,000, whatever, on the RFP. I would like to make sure that we, from what I'm, from what I'm hearing, that we have room to affect change as we go forward in the priority plan, aka master plan, for the Parks and Rec plan, and that I want to confirm, do we have to take the 89,000 from the McDonald Fund? I feel like that's a bit of a concern. Is there any other space for us to take those $89,000 so we're not using the McDonald Fund for this? Is that an option? And is that what I'm hearing from my colleagues as a concern? I know some of you had it. Is that dissipated? Yes, I know it was of concern to someone here. So I just want to make sure that we are looking at making sure that we can have full agreement on this before we go forward. So that's my first question. Adam, please.
Well, any departure from the current funding sources would have to be at the direction of council. We have capacity within the general capital reserve to facilitate it, but that would be effectively a change in the budget that has already been approved by council to facilitate this project work. So that would be at the will of council.
All right. So unofficially, do we want to continue the way we're going? Just by head nods at this point, do we want to continue to take a vote and to create a vote on the $89,000? Are we good to do that? Go ahead, Councillor Adams.
Thank you. One clarification question. Looking at the options, if we approve this RFP and if we get the costing and everything of the 4 different options, they all have the refrigeration there.
Yep.
If the Parks Master Plan or whatever happens, the issues with GRC or whatever, are we going to get enough information to still continue with like phase 1 from here? Like I see like it's option 1, 2, 3, 4, but maybe would we have enough information for option 5 to do like phase 1 as even just phase 1?
So to exactly your answer, part of my question was going to be, is there the price going to go up if our scope goes up of what we're asking for? We're voting on the 89,000 today. That's what our goal is. If we're going to add additional scenarios, that's going to add to our $89,000 scope, correct? Or not? Could we add another 1 or 2 scenarios in there, please?
I think as long as the question or the option is in the scope of those 4 ideas, we're not completely going another way. I think that we can work that out with this consultant. So that if you were saying, listen, GRCA has come back, we can't have refrigerant at this location, then absolutely we can take a look at just a pad or whatever. I think lesser of the options is easy to take out from the project. I would ask Colin's advice on that as well.
Through Deputy Mayor Evoy. So I think phasing, we're talking about phasing and certainly with any of the preferred or the options looked at, any one of them could be phased. So I think that's maybe something that we could, as part of that report back to council, could include is, what is some logical phasing for each one of the options, and just making sure I think we're trying to establish the ultimate vision for this facility. But certainly with all, many of our projects, we approach it on a phased approach. So we can certainly bring that back.
Thank you. We have another question from council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Evoy. This question is actually for you, Colin, because that raises a good point about GRCA and also the parking of an older style Zamboni there. Could we just approve the purchase of an EV Zamboni, which obviously had nice environmental benefits, but we're talking about moving potentially anyway down the road a old-fashioned kind of Zamboni. So I'm curious what the refrigerator being in the ground there and the impacts of having that kind of equipment shed and that kind of thing in the floodplain, because I believe Bissell Park must almost entirely be within the floodplain zone of the river. So I'm just curious if you have any initial inklings based on all your other work in the township from infrastructure services on the suitability of the space for that level of mechanical operations.
Through Deputy Mayor Evoy. So we're in the GRC regulated area. So the project will require a GRCA permit to proceed. From an environmental perspective, the system will need to be kind of tight, as the piping will need to be constructed so that doesn't leak or anything like that. But from a floodplain perspective, there'll need to be some balance in terms of the obviously we won't be able to fill in the floodplain, like that's not permitted. So but the type of project that's being proposed would be feasible. So what we would be looking at is just making sure that GRCA, there'd be a permit issued that we could meet the conditions of any permit being issued to the township.
Any other questions? Nope, that's okay. No apologies. Go ahead, Councillor Adams.
Last one. It's an easy one. Can you just speak to the timing of this project in terms of if we proceed with the RFP and
So according to the consultant's RFP proposal, they would start immediately with an objective to get some of this information in a report or a draft report to council for the end of August. Early September. So the idea here is to jump on this quickly, get this done, and have answers as you're formulating your capital budgets.
I think we're going to take a vote. We are looking at 11.3. 11.3, request for proposal number 06-24, consulting services, assessment of options and preparation of technical studies, Bissell Park multi-use surface report from S. Wiles, purchasing and risk supervisor. The recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington award request for proposal 06-24 Bissell Park consulting service, assessment of options and preparation of technical studies for Bissell Park multi-use surface to ATA Architects Inc. at a contract price of $89,670, excluding HST. Looking for mover, please. Councillor McDonald for a seconder. Looking for a seconder. That fails. That does not carry.
I'll second it.
You'll second it? Okay, so there are two. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Wilton.
I would propose an amendment. Just a second. The council directs staff to cancel the current RFP due to increasing costs, scope, and unknown future staffing and operating budget impacts, and that staff bring back a report back on the best next steps to replace the existing multi-use pad with an inclusive and accessible alternative that is in keeping with the original spirit of the Jack McDonald funding by the end of August 2024, and that the budget for the new multi-use pad remain within the currently approved budget of $418,000 approximately, and that the location of a refrigerated ice pad in Centre Wellington be included in consideration in the current Parks and Recreation master planning process, with recommendations for the best location for a refrigerated ice pad in Centre Wellington, taking into account staffing and operational resources and budget, including ice resurfacing equipment.
That was long.
I'd like to call a point of order.
Before we go to Councillor McDonald.
I'm calling a point of order. I'm calling a point of order.
Okay.
For that very reason.
I said an amendment, not friendly.
I actually thought
It's not an amendment, it's a new direction.
I thought you said let's cancel the first and start this new one, and that would have made it correct. Okay, so that would have made it correct actually, which is truly what I thought you said. So let's. Are you okay if we move forward to how to correct this, or do you want to make your point of order?
I'll withdraw.
Okay. Are you good with that?
I would like to move forward and deal with the motion at hand.
Okay, so we will take a vote.
Second.
Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Adams. All in favor, or any discussion before we vote? Go ahead.
I just, for me, I'm not interested in having staff spend any more time on this at all. So it's either we find out costs, know the costs, unless we RFP this. So that's where it is.
In clarification for anybody, I think what we're discussing is what do we want the price on? And I think we've gone backwards on that, or a different direction on that. By no fault of our own, we understand that it's changed at many levels. So I understand the confusion that we are faced with. In the meantime, in honor of our system, I'm looking, if there's no other conversation around this vote, I'm looking, go ahead, Councillor Craddock.
Perhaps this is an amendment or a proposed amendment just with a fifth option that would include some of what.
Apologies, just to clarify, it's been made, the point's been made that we're going to vote on the first one, or can I go ahead? Can I go ahead and make an amendment for Councillor Craddock?
You can hear his amendment.
Go ahead, sir. My apologies.
Sorry. Just a fifth option that kind of includes that bare bones minimum spend. Not an outdoor refrigerated multi-use, but just.
Can I just, for this point, can we just call in, can we add this completely different fifth option that isn't about phasing, it's just a bare bones. Can we add that? Can we take away one of the refrigeration ones and make it this one? I absolutely see your hands. I'm going to allow or invite.
I think that would be a friendly amendment.
Well, would to this particular vote. You're correct.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, this has already been to RFP. The award amount is predicated on the 4 options that are presented to council presently. So for us to award anything subsequent to that would require a conversation with the vendor to see if they'd even be willing to entertain such a scope change.
Okay, so our answer is.
Thank you, through you. And I think that's where my concern was. I was hoping when the next time we see this report that we would see, we've awarded the RFP and here's our construction plans and our design and all of this. But there was that delivery plan change, and that's why it is here. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be back here. So although I understand what I'm hearing from the staff, I think that's maybe some of the concerns, right? Is that we do want the shovels in the ground. We don't want this moving and this, all the time of the community partners and staff and everyone, right? I think that's my feeling anyway. And so it's a little bit disappointing that we are here today talking about having to get our approval for the RFP again, because the delivery plan had changed. And so that's where it was okay, is there something where we could do that allows staff to move forward? Do we have the information to move forward with that kind of phase 1 or a portion of the phase 1, just to start seeing some progress on this project as we consider and phase out these items? I just want to clarify. It wasn't about coming back and changing or anything. It was actually the concerns are that to this point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I can hopefully clarify. If we go through this consulting and we move forward with one of the options, that we would then have that completed before the winter, and we would be tendering it, and construction would still be able to happen in 2025. We're not building it this year anyways, so it's not slowing this project down by doing this phase first and then moving to a design build or some other plan moving forward to come to fruition with the intent of shovels in the ground in 2025. Okay.
If I summarize to our 3 staff, regardless of our direction, we're voting on this piece, and regardless of which way we go, this first piece, we're going to need the information on how to put those shovels in the ground, no matter where we go from here. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back. Any more discussion on this 89,000? Did you raise your hand there, Adam? No? Okay, so let's please take a vote one more time on 11.3 that we are looking for assessment options and preparation of technical studies, Bissell Park, for $89,670 excluding HST. Moved by Council McDonald, seconded by Councillor Adams. All in favor? We may absolutely do a recorded vote. Clerk?
Do you want to you called the question, but I didn't see it, so can you just call the question again and then I'll take the recorded?
Absolutely. So I will ask again, and then please note we will be recorded. One more time, that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington award request for proposal 0624 Bissell Park Consulting Services, assessment of options and preparation of technical studies, Bissell Park multi-use surface to ATA Architects Inc. at a contract price of $89,670 excluding HST. First vote, Councillor McDonald, Ward 1.
Sorry, you misunderstood.
Oh, you could have stopped me sooner then. I read it 14 times. I'm like, didn't you get that? Sorry.
That's good for clarification. If you could call the vote and then I will record it verbally.
Oh, nobody had voted yet, so we had just.
I didn't see it. So
okay, got it.
Question. Nobody raised their hand.
We hadn't done anything yet.
Okay.
So that's okay. We had Councillor Wilton request of recorded vote. That's as far as we got.
My apologies.
Okay.
I was typing. I wasn't watching. So
that's okay. So we had Councillor McDonald say. Councillor Kimberly Jefferson missing Ward 2, Councillor Ward 3, myself, current Deputy Mayor. I will vote yay. Councillor Jen Adams, Councillor Ward 4.
Yay.
Councillor Bronwyn Wilton, Ward 5.
No.
Councillor Dennis Craddock, Ward 6.
No.
Okay, that carries with a 4-2, or yeah, it's 3. 3-2 vote. Oh, okay. Can somebody call Mr. Pardon? Oh, so, can somebody call in Waters? Yeah. Give him his bag.
I had a lovely cruise. I really enjoyed my time down the mighty Grand. Yes, yes. I swam right through to Fergus and back. So, anyways, we're at item 11.4, strategic asset management policy update. And Adam, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. And through you, asset management planning and processes are deeply ingrained in our operations, capital planning, and annual budgeting exercises. The township has been conducting asset management practices for years. However, it was Ontario Regulation 588-17 that was passed in 2017 that had required the township to have a strategic asset management policy adopted under bylaw to define the township's goals, processes, commitments, and governance structure that formalizes the township's commitment to ongoing strategic asset management planning. OREG 588-17 had stipulated that every municipality shall prepare its first strategic asset management policy by July 1st, 2019, and shall review and, if necessary, update it at least every 5 years. July 1st, 2024 marks the 5-year anniversary date, and staff have reviewed and made minor clarifying changes to definitions, plans, and processes to ensure this document remains contextually accurate for the township. The details of the changes are minimal and are detailed within the body of the report itself, but I'm happy to field any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Adam. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Through you. You guys have been doing this well for a long time, so no issues with the change in policy or anything. Here, just a quick question. I know the actual plan itself you refer to as like a living document, correct? I think the version online is like 2019. Like, does that actually get like updated yearly, or the version that the public sees online of our asset management plan? How often does that get updated?
Through OREG 588-17, we were required to have core assets in the asset management plan by 2022. All assets by 2024, and then an elaboration of the 2024 plan in 2025. When we passed the 2022 plan with council, we included both core and non-core assets to get us over the legislative requirement through 2024. So the next iteration of the plan is going to be coming back in front of council in 2025 that will really focus on a more detailed view of levels of service and the financial plans going forward to facilitate that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any comments, questions for Adam, council? Okay. Thank you, Adam. We have a recommendation of the Council Township of Central Wellington pass a bylaw to adopt a strategic asset management policy for the corporation and repeal bylaw 2019-31. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Craddock, seconder on that. Councillor Wilton, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Okay, we're going to move down to bylaws. Okay. Bylaw 2024 -34, a bylaw to exempt certain lots and blocks within the register plan, 61M -235, Township of Centre Wellington, from the part lot control provisions of the Planning Act. Bylaw 2024-35, a bylaw to establish a policy with respect to strategic asset management planning by the municipality. And then the recommendation that the bylaws 2024-34 and 2024-35 be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and corporate seal affixed. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Evoy, a seconder on that. Oh, Councillor Adams. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Notice of motions? None. Motions or notice have been given. And confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to confirm the actions of council, recommendation that bylaw 2024-36 to confirm the proceedings of council and its meeting held June 24th be introduced a first, second, and third time and passed in open council. Do you have a mover for that? Councillor Adams, seconder on that. Councillor Wilton, all those in favor? So moved. And do I have a mover for adjournment? Councillor Jefferson. Seconder. Seconder on that. Councillor Craddock. All those in favor? So moved. Thank you, and have a good evening.